Morning, morning. Wow, I say wow again. Good morning. So, my name is Reggie Epps. For those who, man, it feels good to have that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, they had to step in because my wife is in children's today, and so she would be sitting over here screaming out for me. So, my wife recruited some other cheerleaders to do it for me. But normally every Sunday it's good to hear her. When I get to speak, she always yells out. So it's good to be supported at home and also away from home. Again, I am not Drew Oakley. Let's clear that up. Okay? If I am, I'm Drew 2.0, as I'll say as always. I'll be Drew 2.0. Drew is out, and I am here to bring a little bit of word today. And I hope that it is a word that is clear, a word that is needed. And a word that is true. That's it. Let me give you a little story. I like to start off with stories. This is not a crying story this time, like I did last time. Back in 1990-something, I was a little kid then, and I was serving at a church called First Missionary Baptist Church in Moundville. The senior pastor there was named David L. Bennett, which is a great guy. I still see him when I can now. Whenever I do see him, I let him know how much he's impacted my life. So one conversation we had, and I remember coming to the church, and it was in a hallway, and he says, Reggie, he says, let me talk to you. I said, yes, sir. He said, there's three things you should do. He says the three things he told me. He says, always dress neatly. Always dress neatly. And he says, when you speak, you look them in the eyes when you speak to them. And he said, thirdly, he said, speak as though you know, and he says, pretty soon they'll believe you. Pretty much speaking confidence. And I said, what he told me. And would you believe those things carried me a long way? It's helped me to this day. I didn't realize what it was then, but it's helped me to this day. And those things, too, I've tried to show my kids the same way because they've done me well over these years. And that was in the 90s. This is 26 right now. And so let's move on. And here's the thing. What we're getting to step into, this Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was speaking to people, to a crowd. And he was sharing with them the traits of what it is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. Just as David Bennett spoke to me, Jesus was speaking to these people. He was speaking to these people, and it was important. Now, like I said, Drew started a series called The Sermon on the Mount, A Better Way to Build Your Life. And last week, Drew spoke about desire. He spoke about desire, and it says, what you long for shapes everything else. The question was, what are you chasing in life? When Drew said that. What are you chasing in life? Now, you have me today, and we're going to talk about identity. Identity comes in and says, who you believe you are shapes how you live. At the end of this, I hope you can answer the question, what difference am I making? What difference am I making? So I hope to convey that to you at the end. So if I had to give you a title for this sermon, I'm going to call it Difference Makers, okay? I'm going to call it Difference Makers. And there's going to be 3 points I want to bring from that title. The first thing is this: difference makers transform. The second one is difference makers light the path for others, and difference makers point people to God and not themselves. Difference makers transform. They light the path for others, and they point people to God and not themselves. And verses I'm going to use is Matthew 13 through 16. Now, if you have your Bibles, so you can turn to it. If you have your phones, you can hit to it. Or you can just follow along with me on the screen. It says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So, difference makers. The first point is different makers transform. 5:13, Matthew 5:13, the very first part of it says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. We are the salt of the earth. You know, let's talk a little bit about salt today, how it's used. You know, I don't know if many of you guys know this, but I kind of like to cook a little bit. Now, I've been working in the firehouse for 17 years, and I've probably cooked for 17 years. I've been married for 26 years, 25, 26, which is this 25? I've been married for 25 years, and I've cooked for almost 26 years, you know, at the house. But one of the things I realize is I can tell, you can tell when there's too much salt. You can definitely tell when there's no salt in the food at all. And one thing that I realized with salt is also put in desserts. If I'm going to make a bread pudding, if I'm going to make a banana pudding, if I'm going to make cakes and pastries, it always says add a dash of salt. Put in a dash of salt. Do you know putting salt in desserts makes it sweeter? It doesn't make sense, but it does. You know when you add salt to the bread, it makes it so it can crumble. If you do it in cornbread or for whatever. Salt has so many properties. Now, in the Bible time, salt was a little bit different. It was an essential, but salt then was used to prevent food from decay, and it made it last a whole lot longer. That's what it did. So, like, if it's, say, for example, if it was say meat, and if it was a veiny part of the animal and they've cut it and killed it, they'll have this bucket or whatever, I'm going to say bucket or a thing of this kosher salt, and they'll roll this meat in that, and then they'll hang it, and they'll let it drain, and it kept all the microbes from making it go bad, and then it allowed it to cure. And if it was a less veiny meat, like a backstrap or a fish or something, they would roll it in this salt, and then they would roll it in a cheesecloth. And so they can use it to preserve later. They can come back later and cut it. So there was those things that it did. So, you know, the thing is the question is, why does Jesus call us salt? You know, he didn't say you're going to become salt. Jesus says, you are salt. You are salt. You know, it's important because our behavior flows from our identity. To understand that question, our behavior flows from our identity. See, we don't have to transform. We don't have to transform people by doing like some religious act or something that's like all this good stuff. We don't transform people by that. We transform people because Christ transformed us first. He made us salt. He made us salt. He made us salt. You know, to understand that we're salt and to understand how we get the benefits of salt, you know, I just said, I told you a couple of things, how salt makes things sweeter, so salt transforms, for one. Salt also prevents decay, and then salt also increases thirst. So how does that relate to us? How does that relate to us? So if salt enhances the flavor, and if you're salt, when you step on the scene, you should be bringing hope. You should be bringing joy to a situation that's not so good. If salt is meant to be used to prevent food from rot, that means that we come in and we stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. That's what we do. When we step on a scene, our character, we get to do those things. Our identity, when we step on the scene, we get to prevent those things from deteriorating any worse. We do. And you know, when it comes to the thirst, how salt makes things thirst, like drives our thirst, the thirst that we drive should change communities and influence others to change. And it should. You know, one of the best examples that I can tell about the part of how it influences others and changes communities is an example of Joseph. If you look in, I don't have it up here, but I'll give you a quick one. Joseph was one of those characters in the Bible in Genesis, man. He had a rough time. He was one of 12. His father loved him, but his brothers kind of despised him a little bit. They dug a hole, threw him in, and said, hey, y'all come get him. He got sold off in slavery. You know when he got sold off in slavery, Joseph, the people that got him, they put him in charge of their place because he was so good. Then everything would start going well. I guess the wife loved him too or wanted a piece of him. He says, no, I can't do it. She lied on him and had the husband throw him in prison. You know what happened when he got in prison? The warden thought, oh my gosh, this guy's is so good. He put him over the prison, and the prison started to prosper, to do well. Some things happened in that process, and then the king got word of how good he's done it, because I think what he done is he interpreted a vision, and then the king says, well, who else can lead my people? Brought him in to lead the palace, but not only that, to lead the nation. Joseph ended up saving a whole nation. He was an example of what salt can do, how it can change the thirst of people, how it can influence people to change and communities to transform. So I just talked about transformation, how salt transforms. That's just a start, but that's not enough. So now we have to lead them. We have to lead them. People, we have to lead them. Go to the second one. Difference makers light the path for others. Different makers light the path for others. Matthew 5:14 says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. You know what's fascinating about light? You know what's fascinating, truly fascinating? You can take a candle, and you can light a candle, and you can see that. If you light in the dark, you can see that candle up to a mile away. You can see the flicker of that light a mile away. Now, that also says you can see up to 30 miles away. Now, that's saying the curvature of the earth is a little bit flatter. That's saying that there's no smog, no fog, no nothing. That's saying there's no trees, nothing to impede it, and you can see at 30. Now, if you want to back check me, just Google it, because I didn't know that until I had to Google it myself. I'm just telling you right now. I've never done that, but Google said it, so we got to believe that's true. I'm going to let that part be true on Google, okay? But that 30 miles away, that one flicker of light can be seen just that far away, And so, again, I asked the question, why does he call us light? Why does he call us light? Again, I told you I was a firefighter. I've been a firefighter now for 17 years. Part of my equipment is having a stream light or flashlight on my. It's a must if I put it on. It's a must. If I ever get in a dangerous situation, if there's a fire, which we do more than fires, but if it's a fire, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, the lights are out and the house is smoked up. I need a light to eliminate that darkness so I can see. So I can make sure when I'm stepping, I'm not stepping in a staircase that I can't see or stepping in some type of hole somewhere. Another part is I use that light also to navigate through the rooms of the place when I can't see. Those stream lights, they kind of cut through the smoke. And also what I do with those lights, they really help save. They can save my life if I go down and somebody can see my light. Or I can use that light to find somebody else. So there's 3 things that light does for us. Light eliminates darkness and it provides direction. And light helps save. Those are 3 things that it does. Again, the question is asked, how does that benefit us? How does that relate to us? So light provides directions. Light eliminates darkness. Jesus says we are light. So here's the thing. Our character, if we're light, go back. It's not on there, I'm sorry. Our character and integrity reveals the truth in the midst of doubt. Our character and integrity reveals truth in the midst of doubt. John 1:5 puts it best. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. We are not called to fit in. We've never been called to fit in. We are called to stand out. Did you hear me? We're not called to fit in. I don't feel like you have to, but we are called to stand out. How do we stand out? How do we stand out? We stand out to lift others up. Simple. We stand out to lift others up. We stand out to encourage when there's criticism going around. We stand out to give instead of take. I've got a couple that I've been seeing now. I've met probably 10 years ago. I call them mom and dad. They're in the 80s right now. And so my wife and I, we go over and we've helped them out. We've changed their insurance, and we've done everything. We got the cars paid off. We did everything we could to help them so people wouldn't use them. You know, because when you get up age, the computers really don't work like it's supposed to. I don't like the computers, and you know they don't like the computers. And those phone calls always asking for money and stuff, and so they always ask us what to do. And so one day I had them, and they needed to go to the airport, and he has a touch of dementia. He really does. His short-term memory is not good. Now, long-term memory, he's pretty dang good. But his short-term memory is just not, it's not where it needs to be. So we were sitting out at the table eating, and Dad says, hey, he says, man, let me give you a little some money. Let me give you a little bit of money. I said, Dad, it's okay. That's fine. You know, it was for gas and my time. I did it, you know. And it was 5 to 10 minutes later, he says, we're sitting there eating, he looks at me again, he says, man, let me give you some money. I said, Dad, don't you know you just gave me some money? I said, put that in your pocket. And Mom, or Miss Freddie, she looks at me and she says, you know, that's why we have you here. She said, God sent you here for us. She says, so many people that take advantage of us every time. So many people take advantage. You know, when we're light, we give instead of take. We give instead of take. The second point is light provides direction. The Bible says that we're a city on a hill, a city on a hill. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving somewhere at nighttime for long hours and I can see the light. And I'm like, man, that gives me hope of knowing I'm not that far away. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. You know how I can wait to the bathroom because I can see the light, you know? You know what I'm saying? You understand this. Or I can wait to get some gas, or I can wait to eat because I can see the light coming. You know, that gives me hope. And I said, I don't care if I'm driving from Greenville, from Greene County to Tuscaloosa, I can see the light. If I'm going from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, I can see the light. If I'm going from Birmingham to Atlanta, and I'm like, okay, I can make it just a little bit longer. There's hope in that. But imagine somebody who's in the woods, who's been lost in the woods, and they don't see anything. And their compass is gone. They're all at a disarray. They don't understand what's going on, but then they can see the light, maybe from a hilltop or through the trees. You know what type of hope that brings them? Like, man, I can make a phone call. Man, I can find shelter. I can find help to get out of this situation. I can find help. See, our job as a Christian, now you go to the slide. Our job as a Christians is not to control people. Our job is to point them to who? Say it again. That's right. See, it's not my job here at TCAT. It's not Drew's job. It's not Jamie's job. It's not Julia's. It's not anybody else. No staff. It's not our job as parents to control our kids. It's not a job as husbands to control our wives or our wives to control our husbands. Our job is to point them to Jesus. Our job is to point them to Jesus. Example I have for that is John the Baptist. John 1:6-8. This is not a slide, but I'm going to read this. It says, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only to bear witness to the light. That was John the Baptist. I want you to hear me good. When people look at us, they should see Jesus easier. When people look at us, when they see us, they should see Jesus easier. They should. We're to lead them to him. We're to lead them to him. And the third point is this. Difference makers point people to God, not themselves. Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Hey, I'll keep this very simple. Our job, our goal, is to glorify the Father. Our goal is just to glorify the Father. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, so whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do it for the glory of God. You do it for the glory of God. When it comes to being generous, where do your supplies come from? It comes from him. So we do it all for the glory of God. When it comes to our service, where do we get our strength from? Where do we get the time to do that service? It comes from him. We do it all for the glory of God. When it comes to compassion, when we have compassion for the ones that we're with, for the ones we see on the street, for the ones that we just see every day, where does that compassion come from? It comes from him. So we do it all for the glory of God, all of it. So why does Jesus choose salt and light? Why does he choose salt and light to kind of give us this point of understanding our identity? One of the things I look at about salt and light is they're both similar. You know, it's just like you don't know if you're brave until you have to go against fear. You know, salt in a canister, it's still salty, but you don't know the effect of it until it touches something else. Well, if it's dessert, it's going to sweeten it up. If it's something else to enhance the flavor. Light itself is light, but it's truly light in darkness. There's things that could be seen. There's things that could be saved. So what I'm getting at is this. Us being salt and light, what he's calling us, is not a selfish thing. It's always for others. It's always for others. It's not a single thing. It's not just for us. It's always for somebody else. And God calls us to be salt, and he calls us to be light. He never said you're becoming those things. He has called us, called you, called me to be salt and to be light. You know, I was challenged this week. I wasn't going to put this in there. This week I was challenged in this area of salt and light. It's funny how God works this stuff out, you know. I don't think you can teach anything you don't know about, you know. It's only information if you do that. This week I turned 51 years old, okay? I know it looked good, don't I? Appreciate it. But also the thing is, this week, my oldest son moved out of the house this week. He bought his house, bought him a house, getting ready for marriage. And, you know, part of me was, I thought at one point, you know, I said, man, the food bill's finna really go down. Power bill's going down. I got an extra room at the house. Why I need to move? I got an extra room at the house. I've got this stuff, but none of that mattered. What started hitting me really hard was, did I prepare him for this next step? Did I prepare him how to love his wife, to cherish someone he's with? Did I prepare him to pay his bills like he should, maintain his house, maintain character under fire? Did I prepare him to do that thing? And they started going over me, man, really hard. And what made it worse, I was in the grocery store buying groceries over, I think I was getting eggs. That's what I was getting. And I hear this lady and this son. It was a lady in there, and she had a little boy with her. And the little boy says, "Mommy," he says, "look how strong I am. Let's see how strong I can pick this up. Look how strong I can be." And dude, that just went all over me. It went all over me. Because in my heart, I was wondering if I did enough for my son. If I did enough. And this sermon hadn't been written, and then I started writing it and started going over it. God reminded me that I was salt and that I was light. You showed him how to love every day. You showed him how to cherish his mother every day. You showed him how to work hard every day. You showed him sometimes things are tough, but we still go through it. You showed him how to make tough decisions. You showed him how to weather the storm when it got rough, when we lost loved ones. When we had to manage 2 or 3 homes that nobody else knew about. You showed him how to do all those things and still maintain peace in the house. You showed him how to elevate the atmosphere of the room at home. Instead of, we talked the other day, and he says, when I left my home in 94, I left my home because I said, that's got to be better. And there's nothing wrong. It was just that. My son left in a different way. It wasn't leaving because he was running away from it. He was moving because now this is his next step in life. And we laughed about that. And he hugged me and he said, "Dad, I love you." And I said, "I love you too." So my challenge this week was understanding salt and light and how to see that. Here's something to think about. Where's your areas of influence at? What about when you're at work with your coworkers? In the office, at the gym? How's the atmosphere? You know? What about home? Is it peaceful? Is it full of joy? Is it full of hope? Admiration? Desire for each other? You know? Your areas of influence. Think about it. Think about it. In closing, be short. I'm not going to be long. I know people got, dinner in the oven or whatever, Being salt is not an option. Being salt is not an option. For we know that's who we are, because we're called to be salt and light. But you have a choice. It says salt that's in a canister, or salt that is misused, or is nothing more to be trampled under the feet. It's useless. Light that is hidden does nobody any good. Does nobody any good. There's light in here, yes, you are light, and it's hidden, but who else can see it? Who else is being guided? Who else is being leaded? Who else is being saved? No one if it's covered up. We all have a choice. We have a choice to use it. As followers of Jesus, we are mandated to be salt and light. It's not an option. It's a mandate that we're salt and light. And being salt and light, can happen only by obedience. That's it. That's it. We can be salt and light through obedience. That's it. So my question today is this. What difference, this is something I ask myself, what difference am I making today? What difference am I making today? Now, it's up to you to ask yourself that question too. What difference am I making today? Forget about what happened yesterday. Forget about what happened in the past. But think of only today. What can I do today to make a difference? What can I do today to make a difference? See, God created us for this. He created us to change the atmosphere. He created us to change the flavor of the room, to light up places in the dark, because we are salt and light. You are salt and you are light. I hope it's clear to you guys today who you are. I hope you understand your identity. I really do. Because if you do, man, everything out there, everything in here changes. Everything changes. Everything changes. Not just for you, but for others. So let me pray for you. Father, this week I hope you do me a big favor. Do me a solid, God. Do me a solid. And make us a conduit for your grace and for your love and for your mercy, Lord. Help us to leave every place better because your Spirit lives within us. And Father, let the light that you give us, that you put in us, preserve, shine, and point others to you. And may the answer to the question, what difference am I making, be found in lives you allow us to touch. Amen. Guys, I want to say